Freehand Hunter channel, and thanks for joining me today. I'm actually really excited to show you the Maratac LSA, or the Land, Sea, and Air watch. It's a really cool watch and I'm ready to get into it, but before I do so, let me say this. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Just watch Hunter, trying to take you through my journey. I obviously buy and sell a lot of watches, and I'm always hunting for the perfect watch that just doesn't exist. So if you want to go through my journey with me, subscribe to the channel. And also, if you like this type of content, you like seeing videos of watches you might not see on every other YouTube channel, please give me a like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. All right, let's talk about the Maratac LSA. Now, before I get into the watch itself, let me tell you a little bit about Maratac. Maratac is actually a company called CountyCom out of Sunnyvale, California, and they make a lot of EDC, or everyday carry type of wear. I've actually purchased a lot of things from them. I keep a lot of their equipment in my survival bags. When I'm out in the wilderness, I'm out in the woods, I'm camping, I'm hiking, you know, whether it's in Montana or in, you know, Northern California or wherever the case it is, I tend to have a lot of their equipment in my bag. You know, there's this, I just had my, my car keys here, and I had this on my keychain. I just want to show you what, this is pretty cool. This is from CountyCom. This is and let me just show you right here. It is a little toothpick that could be used for pretty much anything, and it comes in this little, you know, stainless steel container, and you can actually screw it on the end here like this, and then you can use it for a lot of different things, but that goes actually on the end of my keychain, which is pretty cool. I always have this in if I ever need a toothpick or something really sharp at that moment, like pulling out a cactus thorn out of my leg. Just kidding. That has never happened many of times to me, actually. Anyway, but they make EDC. CountyCom makes a lot of EDC gear, and they also make watches, and they're pretty well known for their titanium watches. Matter of fact, I've done a review, and you can watch that video here. I'll throw a card in, of the Maratac Mid-Pilot watch from maybe about 10 years ago. And those watches are pretty rare nowadays, because Maratac makes these watches, they make them in limited runs, and then they discontinue them and come out with something else. And it seems like every year or two they come out with a new model. And this is their most recent, the LSA. Now, this is a rarer one of these versions that they brought up, because this is a no date version. You'll notice there's not a date. The first run was a date version, and I believe they did 200 or 250. And if you all own one, or you know a little bit more than me, jump in the comments and please let us all know. I want to know exactly how many have been built. But with this run that they offered in 2022, there's only 50. And if you go to their website at the time I'm airing this, which is March of 2022, there must be a couple left, because here's one of 50, and I'm sure a few have sold since I purchased mine a couple of months ago, so I have to imagine there's not too many of these left, and when they're gone, they're gone. Now, I think it's a cool watch, and let me tell you why I searched for this particular watch. So years ago, I have owned, you know, many Swiss timepieces. I wasn't really into anything but, you know, kind of mid-tier Swiss timepieces, and I sold my Panerai radio mirror. Last Panerai I had was a radio mirror, and I sold that, I want to say 8 or 9 years ago. And at that point in time, I started getting more into Seiko, kind of mid-tier watches. I like the variety. I'd like rather than having all my money in a couple of nice timepieces, I actually enjoyed, you know, collecting, you know, lower end, if you will, Japanese watch. I started getting into Seiko, and around the same time, I fell in love with the Blancpain 50 Fathoms watches. I became a little bit better educated in watches, and that was this particular style. Now, I'm going to show you a couple watches that I've owned in the past. So the first watch that got me down the rabbit hole was the Dennis Rudy watch that was made by Dennis Rudy, the watchmaker, and he made a homage of the 50 Fathoms watch. And it was it just set me off on a tangent looking for different watches. So then I went to Helson and I bought the Skin Diver probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Now the Helson Skin Diver that you're looking at right now is from my local friend, fellow watch enthusiast, Bob. You hear me mention him from time to time in my videos. Has a wonderful collection, and he bought the Helson Skin Diver after we were talking about it maybe a couple years ago, and this is his. Then I also went into Seiko 55 Fathoms mod rabbit holes as well, and you can see this is my latest that I do not own anymore, but it's a very similar look to the Maratac LSA, and now brings you to the LSA, and you can see the similarities in all these. And it has to do more with I guess one I should mention to you as well that I didn't even put up here, and I'll put up now. I had the Persista No Radiations, a very rare watch, but you can see it's also another Blancpain homage that you can't find those at all anymore. Anyway, going back to the Maratac, you can see whether it's the bezel insert, the diamond at the very top, loom pip at the very top, that diamond shape, the indices. It's such a classic and cool look that when the LSA came out, I had to try it. I had to. It was a must. So I had to hunt one down. Unfortunately, they were offering these without the no date, and it happened to be a more limited version. So let's talk a little bit about the watch itself. And let's talk about some of the dimensions of the watch. So first of all, the watch is a 40mm watch. As you can see here, it's a 40, well, it says it's almost 41, but that's because the bezel, you can see the bezel pops out just a little bit. Let me move these out of the frame a little bit just to clean it up around here, around my workspace here. You can see it protrudes out just a little bit. So the case itself is like a 40mm case. 20mm lug width. The lug to lug, or the wingspan of the watch, which, some people say this is probably the most important part of the watch, is just under 50mm. It's like 49.2 or 0.3. Now the watch itself, let me stop here really quick and say this is a 30 ATM, 1,000 feet water resistance, 300-meter water resistance watch. So you can see how that case back kind of protrudes out of the back. I think to get that water resistance, it had to be a little thicker. But the watch itself, it's about a 14.5mm thickness. That's with this very big dome sapphire crystal. If you take away the sapphire crystal, you're talking more like a 13mm lug width, or thickness, excuse me. But did I mention this watch is titanium? And so the watch itself, let me just show you this really quick. With the supplied single pass titanium buckle strap, this watch is 67 grams. I mean, you want to talk about a dream to wear? This watch disappears on your wrist. Now, also, take a look at those turn down lugs. The turn down lugs make the watch, it wears super easy. And because the bubble pops out of the back, or the case back pops out a little bit, I believe for the water resistance, it wears really, really well on your wrist. Now let's talk about this being a no date, a ghost date. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this. Look at the loom as I hide the studio lights. This loom is ridiculous. The loom is crazy. It's triple applied C3 Superluminova grade X1. It will rival any Seiko you have in your watch box, and that's saying a lot for loom, okay? But let's talk about the no date version. Because it's no date, it has a ghost date position. It is an NH35. This is one of the easiest crowns to manipulate. Notice the knurling on the crown, okay? Notice the knurling on the bezel. It matches, and it's really cool, right? And so when you get the pop, bezel, or the crown pops out, okay? You pull it out once, doesn't stop, doesn't hack, because this is where the date function would be. Then you hack, and watch this. You know how some crowns you can turn and turn and turn, and barely moves the minute hand? This is so easy. Very easy to manipulate. Set the time, pop it back in, screw down crown, and then you have 300 meters of water resistance. Really very secure tool watch. Now, the bezel action, because it's titanium, you would think that the bezel action is not very good. The bezel action is very nice. There is a little back play. If I had one complaint about this watch, I would say it's got a little bit of back play. It won't retreat on you, so you could time something. The problem is you might lose time, because if you hit it, it's very easy to turn. So it's not, I wish the tolerance was a little bit more on this watch, but other than that, the bezel lines up great. You just lock it back. There you go. And then you can see everything lines up perfectly fine. Drilled lug holes, which make this watch I know people say this term, I love the term though, it's a strap monster. It is a strap monster. It is, because it's black with a beautiful ceramic bezel insert. And you can see that just because it's so monotone, it matches pretty much anything you throw on it. Now stick around, because I'm going to put it through some different straps on it so you can see it in different looks, because this is not how I wear the watch. Now, the watch comes with this mil spec, titanium buckle from Maratac. It's a single pass. I'm not a huge single pass NATO person, right? But that's what it came with. Take that off. Here's the case, clamshell case, care card. I like, this is probably one of the best cases that they've had. I've had older Maratac ones that are almost hard. This is like so soft. And what's interesting is they included another crown gasket, which I thought was really nice to have, actually, in case that you had to replace that at some time in the future. But here's the LSA, and let me throw it on a few different straps for you. So I'm glad you stuck around, because I'm going to give you quite a show. Stand by. Now, if you want to give it less of a military look, you can see this is a wrist candy watch club strap, and it's, blue, and it still matches so nice, doesn't it? Okay, let's try something else. All right, going back to the military aesthetic, here's a Marine Nationale colored strap. This is, again, another wrist candy watch club. I love their straps. They're nice and thin and very well made. I actually even like the hardware. These little thin wire holders here, they're the extra strap holders are great. But how does that look? Awesome, right? Don't go anywhere. All right, and here's with a NATO Extreme desert sand strap. I mean, you want to keep with the very, very military vibe. And by the way, guys, I'm gonna show you something specific about this watch. So don't go anywhere. I'm gonna bring up another couple watches, so just don't go anywhere. I'm still going through strap changes, but I got something pretty exciting to show you. Don't go anywhere. All right, here we go on a Barton canvas strap. And even when you take off the NATOs and you put it on a canvas strap, you can see how cool it is. Now, I wanna show you something here. You notice on the side, it says cage number. Now, what the cage number is, it is any company can apply for a US cage number, and that's where you can actually start selling to the US government. A lot of people think it's maybe a little cheesy that it's on there. I think it's cool. It gives it its own spin and its own look, and it's etched really nicely along the side. I think it's a really cool addition to this particular watch. What do you guys think about that? All right, I've got one more to show you. The last strap I wanted to show you was this Toxic NATO gray NATO. As you can see, this watch is an absolute NATO strap monster. It really is. And I think with the gray NATO, it looks the best. It gives it that real military type of look. But I want to show you something specific that this watch has that I think is really overlooked with these particular watches. Do you notice the white hands on the black dial? Do you know what white hands on a black dial really does? It offers extreme legibility. I'm gonna bring up two of my most favorite military watches that I own currently. And this is the Persista, and excuse me for it not being wound right at the moment. It's fresh out of my watch box. And there's a Persista PRS 18A, and this is a PRS 82, 84? Shoot, I can't remember. Anyway, it's 84, I think it is. So neither one of those are wound, but notice that you have black dials with white hands, and notice how legible they are. Now, I'm wearing currently a beautiful watch. This is a Ball Skin Diver, the very first version. Love this watch. This is actually the second time I've owned this watch, and I missed it so much that I had to put it in my watch box. But let me show you something. Look at these four watches together and tell me which one's the hardest to see the time. What do you think? It's going to be the Ball, right? Because it just doesn't have the contrast that you have on all the other watches. And that's why I love the Maratac LSA. It is one of the most legible watches, and it's so beautiful, and the lume is ridiculous. And if you're a lume person, you're a lume junkie, I'll tell you, this might be the watch for you. And like I said, it's kind of rare. It's going to be rare. It's going to be one of those that you're not going to be able to find a few years from now. So if you have an opportunity to get one and you're like, oh, I really like that watch, well, you might want to try to find them here soon. I'm putting it on my wrist so you can see what it looks like on a 7¼ inch wrist. And you can see me wearing it on the Toxic NATO, which I really love to wear. As I'm doing that, you might not be watching blankness, you might be watching something else. Okay, here we go. Here is the watch on my 7¼ inch wrist, and you can see how beautiful it looks. Let me just say a couple of things before I let you go. Because, you know, a lot of people say, well, no watch is perfect. And, you know, if I had to have any complaints here, it's the slight back play in the bezel. I would wish the bezel action is better, but it's a titanium watch, so you kind of got to give it the benefit of the doubt because it's a titanium watch. One of the other things that this is something that I've come to prefer, and it's a personal preference. The ceramic bezel insert, although it's pretty, but it's pretty, as you can see it there, glary, right? It really gets some glares. And, you know, with a watch that is as vintage styled as this, I would think an aluminum bezel insert would be better. And I love aluminum bezel inserts. And I know some of you guys might say, well, you know, you can scratch it and, you know, you can dent. But one of the beauties of owning a watch and wearing a watch, in my opinion, is having some patina and watching watching a watch gracefully age with dings and patinas, and especially if it's one that you're going to keep, because then you usually have stories behind every dent and ding, and you know, this, you're just not going to get it. I mean, it's going to look pretty, but the titanium might scratch and dent up a little easier than everything else. Anyway, just an opinion. But guys, if you made it this far, let me introduce myself. My name is Blake, and if you can't tell, I'm a bit of a watchaholic. And if you made it this far, I'm kind of thinking you are one too. So thanks for joining me today. Thanks for spending your time with me. Make sure you give me a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content of watches that you're not going to see everywhere else. And I'll catch you guys and gals in the next video.